You are listening to the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 131, Rewards in Game. In today's episode, we have a talk about rewards in game. We discuss different types of rewards and different motivations for players. We also discuss how to deliver these rewards and how to gear them towards your players. October is the month of the live play. I got together for a live play collaboration effort with several excellent podcasts. The game was run by Brad Younie of Carnivore Games, running one of his games, The Unexplained. And we had players from the following podcasts: the Dungeon Master's Dojo, HiBRiD Theory Podcast, D20 To Curtain, A Fool's Quest, and of course us, the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. Every Monday in October, culminating on Halloween, each podcast will release one part of the live play. If you want to listen to it all, you need to seek out the podcast for that week on the specific podcast which will be hosting their part. And while you're there, throw them a subscribe and check out their content. Part 1 will be releasing on Monday, October 3rd, and it's going to be dropping on A Fool's Quest. We will be hosting Part 2 on October 10th. All the links to these great shows and the links to Brad's work will be in the show notes. We hope you enjoy the content. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me virtually today, I've got Josh. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate that you're helping me get this these episodes recorded because knocking out a couple of them is much easier with someone across from you to bounce ideas off of. Very, very nice.
I talk to myself all the time. I don't get anywhere with the conversations, but
I talk to myself as well. But I've done some solo episodes. It's just they're a little bit easier to work through the episode when you got somebody across from you. Also, I think the listeners like to have a second opinion on things, like to hear some variation from not just how I think, but also how some other DMs think, which is why it's nice to have you on the pod.
Well, we got to give the listeners what they want.
Exactly. So today we were talking about a topic. I've had this in the hopper for a while. It is rewards in games. And the reason why I was thinking about this topic is because there's so many different types of rewards that you can give your players. And typically the entire point of giving a reward to the players is to motivate them to continue to do the game itself. So, let's first talk about like what, maybe some examples of rewards that we have here, and what are you actually giving the player? Because I think a lot of like D&D DMs go like, reward, here's your treasure and your gold, and that's good. Like,
yeah, there's when you talk about rewards, there's two main types. There's tangible and intangible. If you're talking about like in real world, if you're trying to reward somebody for doing a good job, you can give them either a physical object, or you can give them some sort of intangible good that makes them feel good. Whenever we're doing role playing, by its very nature, everything is going to be intangible unless you're going out and buying, physical things for your players.
Yeah, you're not buying your players sacks of gold bullion. I mean, it'd be fun, but
dice bags or like a miniatures that are painted. Those are fun rewards for like, hey, we had a good session, or this is a great campaign. That's wonderful, but that's not a common thing. What we want to do is we want to make sure that players have still there is that still difference inside the game, because a tangible in-game reward would be like a weapon or gold or something like that. And an intangible reward is still something you bestow on them. It could be something like a title, or like, now they're singing your praise in the local taverns, or you've got new contacts in order to run new missions or something like that. And I think that intangible rewards in a lot of these games is something that really should be focused on more than just handing out gear and gold.
I agree. The intangible rewards are the ones that tend to make the game more memorable, and also I feel like they motivate the players better. So by the very nature of it, the tangible rewards in the game, and I'm putting tangible in quotes because obviously everything's intangible, like Josh just mentioned. The tangible rewards in games, meaning like I complete this dungeon and now I find all this sweet ass loot. Okay. Those are great when you are trying to progress your character in a way of being like scaling power within your character. The problem is that things like gold becomes basically useless after like 5 dungeons because you have so much damn gold that it's just kind of like, why are you continuing to give it out? It doesn't elicit the same response at the end of it. You're more interested actually in the physical nature of the items that you're getting. So like in the one D&D game I played several months ago, at the end of any dungeon, we would get a set of rewards. Some of it was magic items. The DM kind of made it so like everybody kind of had their own thing in the reward pile. But the gold part of it started being like, well, why do I care about this? Like, I don't like now I've got so much of it. I don't care about it anymore. And what you don't want is rewards to become cheap. So I think the tangible rewards can quickly become cheap, and intangible rewards within the game, which are, feelings of accomplishment within the game, would be like one of the biggest rewards that you can give your players. To get the players to feel accomplished is, in fact, like the best, and like then to be able to portray that in how the setting kind of shifts around them. So like they even though they were already focal to the center, now people recognize them for their great deeds. Those are things that are more motivating overall. Or like they gain a friend in an NPC that they helped out specifically in some side quest that you had, or there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but those are the ones that the players tend to seek those out just more because they motivationally match with the character, or they must feel better in terms of the way that the game goes about. I can just say from my experience as a player, it's always more exciting and enjoyable to. The reward is seeing that, things have sort of worked out within the game for me. So, and being able to see how those NPC interactions kind of come together. So like that's really where the reward of that intangible reward is so powerful within a game.
No, I don't mean to say that you shouldn't give out tangible rewards. I also don't mean to say, just because gold gets sort of blah after so much time, don't try and make it a thing. Don't, nickel and dime your players to death, because they will absolutely hate that. But tangible rewards are good. You give them, make sure that what you're doing is not just like every couple of dungeons, give them upgrades so that they're just like, then they're playing an MMO at that point. You're just going online, you're trying to find the next purple. But intangible rewards really are the bread and butter of memorable experiences. This is something we were talking about earlier. Before the pod, I was talking about different motivation types. And like there's the two main motivation types are intrinsic motivation, or doing something, doing an activity for its inherent satisfaction, or extrinsic motivation is where you're doing something so that you get something as a reward. And we're playing D&D, or we're playing White Wolf, or Sexy Battle Wizards, or some other RPG, because we're there to have a good time. DM is facilitating the good time, and hopefully you're having a good time when you're being the DM, and your players are there to really bring that story that you've created to life. And that sort of doing it for the fun of doing it really plays into the reward of getting that title, getting that contact, having songs sung about you in town. And you're not doing it because I work 8 hours at D&D every day so I can bring home the paychecks. No, you're doing it for a good time. I mean, if you are playing D&D for paychecks, I hope you're having a good time, because why are you doing that?
Yeah, you wouldn't want to take your hobby and destroy it by doing it for paychecks and then you hate it. No, I think that's true. I mean, so there's a personal player motivation that is always intrinsic, which you are doing the game because you're enjoying it to have a good time. So like, there's already, hopefully your table enjoys the hobby enough that there's nobody at the table who doesn't enjoy it, and they're not getting a good time out of it. And then I think that the other things that you're trying to build up to, those are also intrinsic in a lot of ways. You have you don't necessarily, you're doing them all for kind of the notoriety within the game. Again, it's to enhance your experience playing the game itself. It's less about, I am doing this and I am going to get a good time out of it. That's what you promised.
Oh, and part of it, I mean, we say this every single pod. Know your players. Players have motivations that are unique to them. Some people want, they're there. I got a lot of people I play with that are there just to, they fight the battles, and they want to see some reward at the end that, just goes in the character sheet and they're done, because the story isn't as important to them as they're there for, rolling dice and getting big numbers. Fine.
Which is great, because the all systems have inherently within them an extrinsic motivation there, which is the leveling system. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like, you are doing things to level up. Okay. If I keep doing stuff, the GM will either reward me with experience, or I will level up based upon your milestones. So like, the continuation of playing the game always does reward something within the the system itself, whether or not you are motivated, the way the thespian is motivated versus, your barbarian character who just wants to beat stuff up. Again, and you're right. Know your players, know the type of game they want to play, because you want them to come in with as much goodwill into the game, saying, I want to sit down and do the thing that I always do at this game, because that's super enjoyable and super exciting and super pleasing.
What I found fun is, yes, know your players and make sure you get the motivation that works for them, the reward that works for them. I've had a couple of people, not many, but I really enjoy this style of play where it's not necessarily the player that you're rewarding, but their character. And they want a reward that matches the character. So the bard wants to be bardly and wants to do bard-like stuff. They could give a crap about this, but they think it's fun to have a bard that's more bardy than other bards, and give them the opportunities. Rewards are, inherent to doing an activity and getting a reward, but it could also be, the reward can be the activity itself. If a player wants something, you can sort of build into that thing, and that is the intrinsic motivation. It is that they wanted to do the thing, and they're doing it because they like doing that thing. And the game itself is a reward, hopefully for some of us, to stress relief over the week or whatnot. But having those little bits of fun within it, sort of, it's the spice that makes everything nicer.
It's kind of like reward inception. Like you've got that top level, which is I'm playing the game, I'm enjoying it, and then you've got like rewards within the game, and within the rewards there are rewards within again, the idea of giving players rewards by highlighting their characters, that goes into those kind of spotlight moments that we've talked about in the podcast before. And again, you should be focusing on that. You should never prioritize one group or one person over the other at your table if you're going to try and do things like, well, this bard wants to become more bardly. There is a thing about giving rewards that people don't necessarily expect or want, where they will be like, whoa, you really kind of honed in on something about my character, and you made that happen. Or my character, like, we both know Ken, he comes in with his big backstories. Okay. You can connect stuff within his backstory, which makes that is a reward in of itself. His activity in putting forth that effort to create the backstory, you can find something in it to potentially reward him for the activity of doing that. Although I hate backstories myself, and I hate having to read long backstories, that is a way that if somebody is at your table, you do it, skim through it, find a couple things, okay, pick and choose, make them work, okay. It makes you look, again, you don't have to do it right away, you can take your sweet ass time with it, but it does make players feel like the activity of doing X resulted in a story about my character. Or the other thing too is, like, if you go down a skill path, you have a player who's playing maybe a non-traditional, like, meta character, and they have some skills that don't necessarily match up with the archetype. You can find out with their spells and skills. Maybe you have a way to pull those in. Like, you have a very special set of skills that only you, Mr. Bardly Bard, can do. So, that's what makes you more bard than all other bards.
Yeah. So, you've got different options for different players. You need to focus on what makes the player motivated and reward them accordingly. Rewards, like we said, can be either tangible, you can get physical stuff like swords or scrolls or potions or, God forbid, gold. Or you can do intangible stuff, which can be anything from titles or stories or singing your praise in the bar. These are all things you need to have in your arsenal. And it's all about making sure that people are having a good time.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is about making sure that your players are enjoying the experience as a whole. That's the whole point of the rewards. The rewards are to not just do that, but also you can use them to enforce behaviors that you want your players to be doing. I mean, you can sort of classically condition your players to go into danger or to do things that maybe are less than optimal. Maybe you ignore some of the planning because there is a reward on the other side of that. That timely action and that acting in a way that's more heroic will sometimes result in a better outcome. Or, the reward might be as simple as my GM does not screw me over when I do the action. So, that in and of itself, that's sort of like a trust thing that your players have. But that is also something, if you enforce that type of behavior at the table, you will see more of it at the table itself. So again, that's part of what giving rewards is, just try to motivate players to do things within your game as well. So even if the reward is it might be intrinsically motivating for them, but there might be an extrinsic motivation for you. You're trying to get them to do stuff and trying to get them to move into danger or interact with this NPC, or, you know, again, a lot of the stuff you're going to fish for in the game, and your players might miss some of the things that you want to do for rewards. There might be a lot of these things that are out there, but you know, you're going to take your shots, and you're going to see which ones land, which ones the players want to glom onto, and which direction or how deep players want to go to see the reward come to fruition.
So I think the next thing to talk about, since we know what types of rewards to do and what motivations you need to focus on, Aaron, when are you rewarding your players?
Well, I think I know where you're going with this because we talked about it a little bit beforehand. But so I am trying to reward my players. It's gradated based on the actions they do, but almost every action in a positive direction, I want to give you a reward. Okay. So I want to make sure that if you're doing things to forward the story, you're going to be rewarded for it with, you know, knowledge, you know, power, titles, accomplishment, whatever that might be, that continues to motivate you to go down the path. You know, that's where I go with it. You're going to bring up the thing right now, so I'm going to let you bring it up.
Okay. I bring this up because I've seen some people talk about it, and it's more common with online games, and it is something that ruins people's motivation. There's a concept called the Skinner box. B.F. Skinner was a psychologist, theorist who was sort of looking into motivations. And the whole concept behind the box was that he puts a rat in a box with a button. You press the button and a little pellet of food comes out. If every time you press the button, the food comes out, that rat will only press the button when it wants the food. So if your players are getting rewarded every time they do a thing, but they know what the reward is, they only get like a simple dumb thing, they're going to go and do it only when they need to. If they reward it's every 5 times you press the button, you get the reward, then they'll just do it that many times and stop. In online games, they use this because what was found in this experiment was that if you randomize when that reward comes out, you don't know how many presses the button it's going to take. That rat isn't going to sit there and just press it a couple of times till he gets his food pellet. He's going to constantly press that button, hoping that, not knowing when the next one's coming out. You see this in online games where you have random rewards. You're out there looking to get 16 owl livers, so you've got to fight, 700 dire owls in the wilderness. I don't know, because you're randomly getting some of these rewards, these drops, so that you might get, the ultimate sword of ultimate destiny, because you never know, it could drop at any time. And random rewards like that will get somebody to constantly go after that, you don't know what it could be. You don't know when it's going to happen. And I don't think that's a great way to do a pen and paper game, a tabletop game, because your players aren't motivated to keep their experience going. I don't think it's a terrible idea for big things. Like, you could have random rewards in your tabletop, but don't make it your main source of reward motivation. Make it something that's, any time now you could get a huge boon from the king, or the space pirates come down and bestow upon you your own ship because of your actions. You don't know when that could happen. It could happen at any time. And random events like that are good for story and good for taking it to the next level, but don't leave your rewards up to chance. Plan it. Like Aaron said, if they do something good, reward them for that good behavior.
Again, you want to reward so they keep going the way that they're going. You don't always. I will give the caveat. You don't always need to reward them, especially if it's going to be like gear and stuff. Like that's a good one that, let that be random, because that is in and of itself. If the gamble is that, well, this one might have treasure at the end of this dungeon, that may be enough to motivate some players at your table to glom on and continue going down the path.
And take those chances.
And take the chances.
You never know.
And
it could be a big reward at the end.
There could be a big reward at the end. And so, like, that in of itself is something that do use it to motivate your players. And that, there's a great dopamine hit that happens with that, when you finally hit the right reward, or the big reward that happens with that. But in general, I would say, just like we talked about consequences in games ages ago, when I was doing this podcast with Jared, the rewards are the opposite of it. You use them in conjunction with one another. So, stop bad behavior before it starts happening and reward good behavior in the game. Like, that's what you want to do. You don't want somebody going murder hobo in your game. If you don't want that, stop the bad behavior, okay? And make it so there is no reward for doing the murder hobo thing, okay? Stealing the man's boots, those are level 1 boots. They do nothing. You started the game with those boots, and now you just keep killing people for the same boots. And don't like randomly give fantastic boots from murdering hobos. That's terrible. If you do that, then you've got the dire owl situation. But you've just replaced dire owls with hobos. So
yeah, you're gonna have to kill 700 hobos to get 12 pairs of boots. It's not good.
If you find them of exquisite quality. These are the legendary boots
of hoboing. No, that doesn't sound right at all. Riding the rails. I don't know. What would be good hobo boots?
Legendary boots of Gathar. He's the legendary hobo. You finally
where you can pull a tin can out of your boot at any time.
That's right.
And it's always half full of
You
beans.
always have a can of beans on you. That's you'll never go hungry.
Your legendary hobo boots. Yeah. So, but know your players. Know your players. Know what motivates them. Give them options. Reward their good behavior. Randomly give them things when it's appropriate, but don't make that your whole source of motivation. What else?
Yeah, no, I think that those are the big things. Again, you can be a little random with some stuff because it does keep players on their toes. But like, again, the things to keep the grease moving, those should be pretty consistent rewards because you want the players to keep doing it. And then the other stuff that you do between it, those are the things where you can start being like, this happens every couple of times. You don't want it to be so predictable as that, where, the players just do it enough to get things done. But you want to make it so, like, every person that you save on the road does not immediately ingratiate themselves to you. They might be like, I was striking up a deal with that fine gentleman. You jumped in and blew the whole thing up. Like, you could do fun things like that as well. So not everything needs to be, you can't keep the players guessing. And you can play with it too, because if the players are willing to jump into scrums and phrase, that's when you can kind of twist things on them every now and then, make them go like, that I was expecting, a lot of praise from this person. Instead, I got a stern talking to about my action.
But don't go too far in that direction either. You don't want people, gun shy from encounters, because that makes your players just wary of actually going and doing anything. Motivation it works strongly in both directions.
Yes, it does. But no, I think you're right. I think that be consistent with it, and or find the right times to do the random reward to get the right players. And KYP, know your players, know what motivates each one of them. Know if it's you got to have loot at the end of that dungeon. You gotta be motivated. What are they trying to seek from playing the game? Assuming that all your players sit down at the table and they go, we enjoy playing every night. That's if they don't have that, then good luck. So
if they don't want to be there, I mean, what are you going to do to motivate them?
Yeah.
Bring better Cheetos? No.
Anything else for you, Josh?
No, I think that pretty much covers really all my thoughts on rewards and reward systems.
Yeah, so maybe you can avoid some of the gold. I don't know. Give us your thoughts. Level Up Your Gaming Podcast at gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. The podcast is also on YouTube. So if you listen to it there, smash that like button, notification bell, so you can get the episodes. They are delayed a week from when this podcast comes out, so they always release a week behind the previous episode. I guess that's just one of the benefits of listening to it on a regular podcast platform. Also subscribe to the podcast, review, share with a friend, make sure you put this out there. If you have any podcast groups on Facebook, please share the link on those podcast groups. I'm doing my best to keep the thing promoted and all those other good things. And stay tuned. So there's some fun things going on this month at the end in October. And I'll be releasing some interesting content with some other creators as well. So, again, stay tuned for that. And it's going to wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.